Big Sweert Gaming.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Invinciboys. I'm Christian.
I'm James.
And I'm your imported Italian maple, Jason.
And our special guest, Kaitlyn.
I'm not imported, but you guys should know me if you listen to the Big Sweert Gaming podcast. But this is my first time on the Invinciboys podcast. Not a boy, but it's all right.
It's the boys, as James says, royal term.
The royal term.
I could be a part of the boys.
It's like The Boys, also on Amazon Prime. One of them is the female, but she's still a boy. It's all inclusive.
All right.
Except
Kaitlyn.
This isn't The Boys, this is Invincible.
No, it's the Invinciboys.
Invinciboys.
Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's the Invinciboys.
Invinciboy. That's my gender.
What are the pronouns for that?
I can't think of anything fun.
It's either B or Brr.
Damn.
Bo or
Couldn't think of
Bim?
anything good. Yeah, just call me Bimbo.
That works too.
All right. Start this off. Kaitlyn, what's your history with Invincible?
Yeah, I am new to the Invincible world. Before this show was coming out, like I knew of Invincible and had read like one of the volumes like a long time ago. So I was really excited when the trailer came out. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna read through all of it before the show started. And again got through like the first volume, and then the show started, and I kind of decided that I wanted to go in a little blind and just kind of experience the episodes as they come out, knowing that like some things are going to be different, but I wanted to be surprised. And so, yeah, really enjoying the show. And once it's done, I will definitely be reading through like the entire series because it's great.
Awesome. So I think first up, we're just going to have general discussion about the episode. Jason wrote down some notes, some plot points.
They're
Take
my
it
notes.
away.
They're all over the place. Are we starting with the summary?
Are we?
Okay. Or do we want to do general impressions?
Oh, yeah, we got to do that first, don't we? Like I said, I
Yeah.
was zoned out last week. So
Let's throw it to James. What did you think about the episode overall, high level? Not spoilers yet.
Well, big shocker, but I thought it was another good episode.
Gasp.
It's not I know, right? Real shocker there. It's not hard to win me over. I'm gonna love whatever they do. It's interesting how they're pulling some stuff forward, they're delaying some stuff, and I'm interested to see how they are stacking together the different plot threads and how it will all culminate ultimately. But I like everything, the stuff they continue to add, I'm finding has really been adding to the story. I liked the additional depth they gave Titan, who was featured heavily in this episode, and Mahershala Ali did a fantastic job. But there were a lot of elements that just made his character was already kind of deep from the comics alone, and they were just able to plumb those depths even more, which I was a fan of. There was some really standout action scenes after having a less action heavy episode last week. I liked seeing the return here. I did have that initial shock of, oh, they're going straight back to the gore.
Yep.
I still can't land on whether I think it's awesome or unnecessary, but it's Invincible, so it's gonna come with the territory. But that opening scene especially is like the gun to the face. It's like yikes. But yeah, and then obviously the big explosive action scene at the end was awesome too. I liked seeing so many more characters from the comic introduced, and I'm just excited to see this world as it continues to be built out. So yeah, good episode.
Yeah, my thoughts are similar. I'm pretty positive on it overall. I liked how it was a little more having a single through line than the previous episode. I think really kind of having the episode center mostly around Titan made it a lot stronger. Like you said, the stuff that they added to him very quickly, there's like, by the way, this guy from the first episode, he's not just some throwaway dude. Let's make you care about him. And they do that in a couple scenes very quickly. And I really, really enjoyed that in particular.
Jumping in here, just because when he was, I think, introduced in, was it the first episode? Is that what you
Yep.
said?
Mhm.
I can't remember if they played the song during that episode, but every time he like showed up in this episode, they played the "Make Way for the King" song.
I love that song. It's just like it's
Same.
got a power and like a swagger to it.
Well,
like,
and just like because they kept using the lyrics, like that part of the song where the "Make Way for the King." I didn't really
Mhm.
know a lot about Titan, and so like this whole episode before like the end, like which we'll get into, I was like, I'm like, there's so much more to this character. Like he has to have more depth than what we're seeing, solely because of their song choice, which the whole series has been doing a very good job with the songs that they use, and I've been really impressed with that.
I've been kind of at odds with the music throughout it. Like a lot of the stuff, I didn't recognize a lot of the songs. They're just kind of landing kind of weird with me. Like, oh, I don't really know why. Like, I couldn't really understand what kind of vibe they were going for. But holy crap, this is the first time I was like, this is perfect. And
Yeah.
I really like the use of that.
I,
So-
Well, I
I
think
think maybe it's
all the-
because go ahead, Jason.
Good. I think all the music choices, like Kaitlyn was saying, like they're meant to kind of vibe with the characters, because we got kind of that like poppy punk every time like Mark's flying around, like this Cage the Elephant in the first episode, and I forget what it is this episode, but same vibe, kind of like poppy, kind of arrogant kind of music at this point. And then like the other characters, they get a little more like heavier with like the rap for the Mahler twins. Run the Jewels. It's great.
They always choose the Run the Jewels. Yeah,
Oh, it's amazing.
I love it. Yeah, I think the music lands for me just because, like you said, it's distinct to each character, and I think it just adds a lot of tone to the characters too.
Yeah. Overall, I liked the episode. I think it might be my least favorite so far. I don't know why. I just felt like it was because there's 8 episodes this season, and just knowing where things go, I felt like maybe things are going too quickly. Because James isn't this beatdown like right before he gets the blue suit, or is that another one?
I've already seen this, or like at least the fight against Machine Head. I've already seen in the comics. I'm a handful of episodes or issues ahead of that, and he hasn't gotten the blue suit yet. So
Yeah, this. I was looking at a lot of this was pulled from like issues 16 through 19, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yep, that sounds
I
about
just
right.
hadn't- Okay, I
Blue
just hadn't
suits,
read
blue
that.
suits a little later on.
Yeah, I couldn't remember because you know how my memory works with that. But
Well, there's
overall-
some significant things they're delaying, and it's very understandable that would mess with your
Yeah.
recollection of where everything is. And I'm with you on the whole, like, I feel the burden of knowledge.
Yeah,
It's like you kind of
that's-
know that there's something coming up, and it's like,
That-
all right, when are they gonna initiate that? When's that gonna?
Yeah,
That's been preying on my mind
that's
too.
probably what it is that made me kind of make this still a great episode, and I loved every bit of it. But it's my least of the 4 that or 5 that we've gotten. And I feel like that might be the reasoning. I just didn't know how to word it. The burden of knowledge. A sentence I never thought I would have in my lifetime.
See, but the longer we draw things out, like with that burden of knowledge, the more it frustrates me that we got like the big Guardians murder scene at the end of the first episode, because the way they're like building and picking on threads, it's like this would be more interesting if we just didn't flat out know like definitively the answer to the mystery already. Like, I don't think that, like, you can see the things fraying, but it would have been more interesting if there was a little more ambiguity. It'd be like, well, he seems like a good guy. Is he really? No, he's really a murderer. Like, we know this.
I think there's still a lot of I can't even say that word right now.
Ambiguity.
Ambiguity. Yeah, I literally forgot how to pronounce it. I don't know. For the first episode, I think that was a great way to hook in new audiences, because you watch that episode and you don't know where it's going, and then you're just basically like punched in the face repeatedly, and you're like, "Holy cow! Like this isn't what
So were
I
the
thought it was gonna."
Guardians.
And if you weren't, they certainly were.
Literally,
Yeah.
you like felt your head being exploded, and it was.
One of my eyes popped out.
Yeah.
Like, oh god.
But I like that they still have the like murder mystery aspect with the demon, and then with Debbie, like with her kind of like realizing that like, yes, her husband's lying to her, and we kind of get to experience that through her eyes. So even if we know what happened, we're witnessing characters who don't know what happened, and
That's
they are trying to come to that truth,
Mhm.
and that's going to rock their world.
yeah, that's exactly the point I was gonna bring up. I feel like that they're doing a really good job at making you feel vicariously through Debbie,
Yes.
like the whole murder mystery aspect of who killed, what is with Nolan, why is he being so weird here lately.
It's there. I mean, obviously, like family is a huge part in this show. And what I liked about this episode was was that this episode where you saw like Eve with her family?
Yes.
Yep.
Mhm.
Her
Yeah,
asshole
and then with
parents.
Titan with his family, like I really like that you get to see all these different relationships within like the superheroes and their families.
Mhm.
But even though like Mark's family kind of took a back seat in this episode, it still is really prominent, focused like on Debbie. And that has been one of my favorite parts of like this show is one, I Debbie she's not Asian American like in the comics, right? Like I don't think Mark had.
I believe she is, right?
Is she?
I guess it's not.
Yeah, it's not very like stated, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay, then because I was like, what I remember reading, it didn't like play a role, but it feels like that plays a really strong role in the show now because you have Omni Man, who's like, you realize like there's like a line he says where it's like, he says he's like trying to protect the world, but it's like through the lens of a white man and like colonization. Like, no, he's just trying to like control everything, and he has like, I don't know. It's how he like talks to his wife and other women, like that scene with the nurse. And when
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, I think that is called back to in this episode. Through
So many of
Debbie's
his
eyes.
lines are just like you can see how Debbie can interpret them in a like only slightly hurtful way, but they're just dripping with that second meeting. Like there's the scene later this episode where he's like, I think Mark needs to be careful who he puts his trust in. He's not listening to me, us.
Yeah.
And like he's like very much implying like, why is Mark listening to Debbie? And then he like
Yes.
saves himself. And it's like, oh, it's just
Well,
like,
yeah,
go ahead.
there's very prominent, like there's racist undertones within his character, especially like there's that part. And then when Mark is expressing his concern for Titan's story and like the struggles of like this black man, and his dad is like, what did he say? He says, oh, that those struggles are beneath Mark. Is like,
Yep.
it was that phrase. And I was like, oh, I wanted to punch this man so bad for Debbie and Mark and just everyone. But
And
yeah,
like Titan himself calls it out because he's like, yo, you're just a rich kid from the suburbs. I can tell that just from how you act.
Yeah.
Like things here are different, like things on the ground in the city. And like it's definitely playing interesting ways by contrasting the two characters. And like whereas Mark's like, oh, I'm such a big hero, but like he hasn't really been through the ringer yet until maybe the end of this episode. But
Also, I think it's an interesting a little twist on one of the phrases used a lot in the comics is like Mark and Eve especially will joke a lot how people never look up, like, and it's like the whole thing of like the humans never, like, they just don't have the same sense of things as the people who are enhanced do. Like they don't look up, see people flying is what it is. But I thought it was interesting to have Titan saying like you never look down, like on the streets, like it's a complete flip of that from the comics, which was pretty cool.
And the interesting thing about that though is this episode is also the one that shows that like of all the heroes, there is one or two that do look down. Mainly Eve, like she is the one who goes to help with the soup kitchen, and like she's actually enthusiastic. Like this, I'm helping people. This is what this is about. And her she seems to be the only hero whose quest is driven by empathy, as opposed to the other heroes we kind of see. Whereas Black Samson is driven more by duty. Like it's our duty to save these people, and like people like Rex and Duplicate and Monster Girl are driven by vanity and just kind of having fun with it.
Having to prove themselves to either themselves or the world.
Yeah. And Mark just kind of torn between these and like trying to figure out what is his philosophy amongst all that. Does he align with his mom? Does he align with his dad? Because depending on the line, you can see the direct influences of either Debbie or Omni-Man, like just kind of playing through him as he like comes to terms with that in real time.
Those are really good observations. I really liked every scene that Titan and Mark had together. Like, just I feel like I don't know how to word it. Like, Titan is very like serious and like dramatic with everything that he says, and then you have like Mark, who's like this kind of like lighthearted kid, and he has like funny quips that he throws, and you would think that like these two characters wouldn't mesh really well together, but they do, even though like obviously it doesn't really pay off in the end because Titan is not who like you think he is.
They very much got the buddy cop vibe going on. Like,
Yeah,
like Titan is like the grizzled veteran, and like Mark is more like the loose cannon.
and I really want, and I don't know, like you can also spoil things like later in the comics. I want Mark and Titan to like work together some more. I really thought there was this opportunity for Titan to like open up his eyes on a lot of like issues with the world, and for Mark to be able to go to his dad and be like, you were wrong, like these issues are not beneath me, like this is why, like I have these powers for a reason, and like this is why, like I can actually help people. So I don't know if that will happen or like what role Titan plays like moving forward, but I hope we see more of him.
I think the fact that Mark hasn't retorted towards his father with anything like that yet really is showing that he's very much still trying to discover like what does being a hero mean to him? What type of hero is he going to be? Of course, Debbie's line from last episode challenging like you need to decide what you're going to be. And I think that's one of the biggest themes of this first season.
Yeah.
And it's also his dad, and like he doesn't know what his dad did. We do, but he doesn't.
But he does know that he wants to be like his dad. And he has the line to Titan where he's like, yo, I'm a big picture hero. I don't worry about the small stuff. And which like reflects all Omni-Mans to be like, Mark's out there saving millions and he doesn't care about a single person. And like
he needs to save the planet, not just a block or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting to see how Mark's standing with his dad changes across the last couple episodes, because no spoilers, but things are going to happen and that relationship is going to take a turn.
Yeah. I hope I can't wait for his relationship, like for that to take a turn, but then I'm just also so interested in Debbie's like character, and I'm just like waiting. Sandra Oh is a phenomenal like actress, and I love everything she's done for Debbie. And like this episode, I think like we finally got to see her be a little like angry. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to her like confronting Nolan and just with when she's kind of put all the pieces together.
I feel like she's gonna have a bigger chance to do that earlier on than she did in the comics. Like I feel like they're building to her being more involved, or perhaps even being one of the inciting incidents that kind of causes the next big like event to happen. Like they've done a great job setting up the family dynamics, but at the same time they've been setting them, they've also been like turning up the heat in the house. I'm picturing like a pot, and there's like the steam boiling out of it. It's like things are searing, tension is rising with each episode.
Except it's actually just getting cold.
Yeah.
Like the house is actually starting to freeze, and the lights are never on anymore. It's always dark.
Yeah, but you could feel the tension during the one meal scene they shown, and Debbie just looked. She was having her 1,000-mile stare moment. She was gone. You could tell there's a lot going on in her mind, and that's got to come to a head at some point.
Yeah. Also, such a smart woman with like planning, like how long it would take Omni-Man to like go to all these places, when she has
Well-
set the timer for 20
Well, I mean,
minutes.
Oh,
she's,
yeah.
that
she's
sequence.
been married to him for how many years? So I mean,
Yeah.
surely she knows how far it takes him to get. She probably knows his max speed per hour.
Yeah,
and-
I love that. I'm like, good for you.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite new things we gotten so far. The whole idea of that sequence was really cool.
And the
Yeah, it
idea
was-
that she is cunning enough to do what Cecil couldn't. Because Cecil has been trying to get Omni-Man to go away so he can investigate. But Cecil's like not really had luck with that. But Debbie just like uses her status to do that for herself. Like shows that she is really a player on this stage. And I like that.
Debbie doesn't need to be able to initiate Mars missions to get the job accomplished.
Exactly.
She
All
just
she
needs a
needs is some
grocery list-
math.
a
Yeah,
grocery list and
grocery
a-
list and some math.
math.
And a map.
But that's been like a huge thing. Like when she had her conversation with Mark, and she's like, "Oh, you're like boring old like mom," and he was said like, "You're nobody." It's like, but she's not. Like you don't have to have superpowers to be super. Like she just be badass on her own.
Also thought it was funny that his hiding spot for the suit was literally just like a ledge that nobody else but him and Mark could reach, and it just reminded me of like it's something that a dude would do, like to just sweep it over here where nobody
Because I don't
else
think
can
in a
find it.
million years he would ever think that his wife would be suspicious of him. He has such like a superiority complex. Can't get that word out. It's with me today.
Superiority.
Thank you.
Complex.
But the funny part is like if he really wanted to cover this up, he could have just like gone to the sun in a day or two, just thrown it into the sun or thrown it into space and it's
Yeah.
gone.
But he is
Like-
he has white man like confidence.
Just put it on one of the mountains that he
He
frequents.
he does
Like,
not he does
put it
not
in a
think that
Everest
his wife
cave.
would be looking for that.
An Everest cave.
Yeah, there's a lot of caves on Everest, I assume. I've never been there, but
Isn't
you
that-
know.
Where is the Guardians? Isn't there like
Aren't they out
Somewhere
near
in
the
Utah.
Everest?
Yeah.
Are they
yeah,
Utah?
aren't they in a mountain?
Somewhere in Utah is what the comic always said.
Oh. I
Okay.
also thought it was super funny that like okay, you have the first what are they called? The Guardians of the Globe.
Guardians of the Globe. Yeah.
Globe.
You have the first Guardians of the Globe are all murdered, barring one, and then your next group of Guardians of the Globe, you're like, oh yeah, go to the same location that they were all killed. Like that's your base because
Well, it's-
obviously it's safe.
It's government sanctioned. They're not
Where-
gonna they're not gonna build a new cave in a mountain.
You haven't solved how the rest of them died, and
I
you're
mean-
like, but it's safe enough.
Well, the thing is that like they have strong suspicion. Like Cecil, it's basically confirmed Cecil knows. So Cecil's like, they can go there because this time, if Omni-Man jumps, we'll have proof. Like it's almost
I
a
don't-
trap. Rather than having to play cat and mouse with Omni-Man, it's just like, I dare you.
Is it a trap? Like, did they choose the worst of the worst to be the new Guardians of the Globe? Because, like, I feel so bad for everybody who lives on Earth, and it's like, that's your new Guardians of the Globe. They all suck.
I'm
Not
Yeah,
as
I'm
bad
not
as Fight Force. Heyo.
yep.
It's true. They're not as bad.
Hey man, they could still beat the Lizard League. That's what matters. The Snakerator.
Yes, Snakerator. Not even a creative snake name. Stop it.
It just reminds me of that one Spider-Man panel that's like, Spider-Man's like, with all your technology, you can like cure cancer or whatever. And the dinosaur man's like, but I want to
That-
turn people into dinosaurs.
Yeah. Oh, fair enough, dinosaur man. We can't fault you on that.
We all have dreams.
Oh my goodness.
So we've pretty much talked about everything that's happened prior to the third act. Do we want to dive deep into that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could probably just go straight to the heists because I think we've covered basically everything so far.
I
uh,
have a question.
Go for
Where
it.
I don't know where my notes are.
24.
And maybe 24?
Final answer.
The answer is
All right.
yes.
Oh God. I'm not even gonna ask.
What's your
No,
question?
it's more of an observation, and I'm so annoyed that like I don't know what robots like who he's actually
Oh,
working
yeah.
for. It's driving me nuts. Like
Oh,
I
robot.
just need to know. I-
I'm also
Who-
not far enough in the comics to know, so this is
Ah,
interesting
okay.
for me too.
All right. Well, so at least someone else is with me because I'm like, who? Also, do we know what? Like, did I forget whose blood he has? Like, who is
It's
he trying?
Rex's.
Rex blood.
Rex.
Because
Why is
last
he
episode
trying-
he like put his hand on there and it's like, I forgot how soft humans are. And he takes the blood then.
Why would he want to replicate Rex? I,
I think we gotta wait.
Well, if you
Oh, it
watched
makes me
last
so
week's
mad.
episode of Invinciboys, I may or may not have explained why he did so in the comics. That I think they kind of rushed getting it into the show and didn't really set up for
Oh,
as
really?
well as they potentially could have. Yeah.
All right.
He
Well,
sees a lot of the interactions between Rex and Monster Girl, and he sees like some kind of innate chemistry. And the comic has, or the show has been showing like they'll be talking and then they cut to robot kind of like deadpan staring at them after they're talking, but he also is literally a robot and you can't really tell where he's looking. So it's
I
kind of
was
like,
like, you
I
said
have that
deadpan.
insight.
I was like, he
'cause, yeah.
doesn't. He cannot emote.
Yeah, it kind of just looks like he's in the background, but he has a sense of longing, I guess.
But the
We'll see,
the
we'll
interesting
see.
thing is that like he does emote more than you'd expect a robot to, because especially whenever Monster Girl's in danger, like
Yes.
when
Mhm.
Battle Beast was about to finish off Monster Girl, you heard a very apparent like no, and then he unibeams to get Battle Beast out of the way temporarily.
Which I have like, I don't know if it's problems with that. That I guess we could get into the third act because like that entire fighting sequence. Oh, I just got really blurry. 1 sec. There you go. That entire sequence, I feel like they kind of fell in the trope that happens in superhero movies where like one of them is getting so badly like beaten to the point that they're killed and the rest are like doing nothing. And then when someone dies, one other person gets like super angry and then they fight and then something happens to them and the rest are still not doing anything. And I'm like, just fight together.
Well, I mean they do during the second half of that fight.
They do. It makes me so mad when
But like
I-
I know it's like littered with tropes, but like they went out of their way to show each person getting incapacitated. Like Shrink Ray got knocked out, Duplicate like got smashed, and like all her duplicates like just burst limb from limb, and that was kind of gross. And like
That doesn't happen a lot.
Monster Girl was like getting shocked, and that's kind of how they explained everything. It's cheesy, but yeah.
I guess I would be more okay with it if we had more buildup of their relationships with one another, because I feel like we haven't had that enough. Like I don't have investment in these characters in just 5
That's fair.
episodes. And I don't understand how they have these relationships with one another to the point that they would get that upset by one of them dying. Like it just, I don't know. I felt like I didn't get the payoff for the characters who died and like the reactions to their deaths like I should
Well,
have.
I think that's also like part of the point is like they're also a like fresh team. Most of them don't have good relationships with each other. Like the only like strong bond is the weird paternal instinct that Robot has to Monster Girl, but otherwise they just kind of barely know each other.
Right. I don't know. I guess to me it just, I'm like, for people who like barely know each other, their reactions didn't make sense to me. It felt like we were missing a lot of character like development between
Yeah.
them. But I mean that's like a very small critique that I had from that scene. I'm talking a lot. Someone else could talk.
No, it's fine. I think that's a good point. Like I would like to see more of the Guardians of the Globes, like more of just the thing about this show has done well is they've introduced enough like interesting side characters that like, ooh, I just like for each side character, it's like I want a little more of them and a little less of Mark. And like, unfortunately, it's a show about Mark, so I feel like they're kind of like mainlining on him. But like, it's set up like I would love to see more adventures of the Guardians of the Globe. I'd love to see more adventures like the Mauler twins, just to get to the point where we're at. But we just don't have time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the only reason we aren't getting more stuff from some of the side characters is because it's an 8 episode season. like if it was maybe 16 episodes, we could get like those full on like issues in the comics where it's Mark hanging out with the team or the Guardians of the Globe now and building those relationships between not only Mark and those characters, but those characters between the other characters within that group.
Well, that's the thing that confuses me, right? Is because it's an 8 episode thing and they're seem to be saving the big twist for episode 8. They're pulling a lot of content forward from that. It's like, this seems like a really great place to inject a little bit more filler, if they weren't just trying to burn down issues, right?
I get that. And it is hard to, like, if Mark is our main character and right now he's not interacting with these characters in the real world. Or I don't know, I said real world, but like it's just hard to focus on them. He's not in their vicinity. Because otherwise, if you do that, then you have weird pacing issues and it's really hard to develop characters that are not with your main character. So I get it, but yeah, it feels like there's just so much happening.
Which I feel like
it's part of the divide between Omni-Man / Invincible and these established teams. Like they've very much talked about how Omni-Man very much like he doesn't like teams. He's a solo agent, an independent operator, and you see that throughout the comics where it's like when they're calling in Omni-Man or eventually when they're calling in Mark, they're calling in their big guns.
Yeah.
And Mark is very much like, all right, we need Mark over here. We need the Guardians of the Globe handling this thing over here because you may have simultaneous incidents going on. And I think the fact that Nolan is around is he's pulling Mark away from getting that more interaction with the Guardians of the Globe.
Yep.
And that's definitely a difference, is that he has more time to develop that relationship, which I've enjoyed. But yeah, I think we need some smaller moments of that team outside of. It seems like every small moment we've gotten of the Guardians has just been like, oh, haha, Rex is an asshole, which
Right.
that's been very established. And I love Jason Mantzoukas. I won't say his name 3 times to joke that his name is complicated, but I enjoy those scenes and I enjoy him. But we've gotten that point across, and I think we need to see a little more from everyone else. He's an asshole, robot's mysterious. All right, what about everybody else? Right? Yeah.
Duplicate in particular, like, hasn't had a good line to show that she's a person. Like beyond, oh, Rex cheated with her. That's her, and she can multiply. That's it for her. That's her entire existence. Like,
no, what was it?
that was the last episode.
No, I was trying to think. And I should have just looked it up. But when we were in the prison, when the Mahler twins are escaping, there was a boy in there who also had like. Is he related to Duplicate?
That is Multi-Paul.
Multi-Paul?
Yeah.
Okay, because I saw him and I was like, that.
It's her twin brother.
Yeah,
Okay.
It was an Easter egg that they gave us.
That was a little Easter egg for the comic book fans. So he shows up later in the run in the comics.
Okay.
They just kind of placed him. I don't know if that was them putting him on the chessboard or just a fun little nod, but we'll see what ends up happening.
I thought it maybe that he would show up later to establish more of like her backstory if they were related, because I saw him and I was like, that looks like Kate.
Yeah, he shows up like way later in the comics.
Okay.
It's like issue 50 or something. Like
Oh.
it's around like the.
He'll be
pushing
in
more towards
season
the
7
midpoint.
of Invincible.
And by then
We're
I will
going
have
15
forgotten.
seasons.
So okay.
yeah, I think Shrink Ray also doesn't have a lot of characterization so far, because like there will be like an exchange between Monster Girl and Rex, and then Shrink Ray is like, haha, guys, I'm here, remember? Like, I exist.
Yeah, it's
I don't think that's going to change because I don't remember shrinking Ray Ray at all from the comics outside of just.
Oh yeah, because she was a dude in the comics.
They'd
gender
show up
flipped.
whenever the Guardians would show up, and that's certain characters get more spotlight than others. And I think a lot of the characters are there just to service that this is a very active world with a ton of superheroes, and it's a very established thing. And because of that, there's a lot, and you can't give everyone the same time. And also, the comic series had the luxury of having all these spin-off comics too. because Invincible was kind of like the linchpin. I think it's literally called, from Image Comics, it's called the Invincible Universe. But you have the Guardians of the Globe. I believe they have a comic series called Guarding the Globe that has a volume or two. You have like the Astounding Wolfman, Tech Jacket, Brit, which I'm sure their characters will probably pull in at some point. But there's all kinds of side stories and stuff.
When did those come out? Like relative to Invincible?
Like
Like,
during, like during
all at the same
run.
time, I think. I'm not sure
Well,
if they
like
were
what part of the run? Like, are we talking like, are they, is this starting up by like issue 20, like around where the comics are or where the show's pulling from now? Or did they
Don't
not
ask
start till
me,
50, 80?
'cause
I'm
I
just
haven't
curious
read
if
any
you
of
know.
Yeah,
the
I
side
don't
stuff.
know off the top of my head.
I'm like looking at them, but it's
I just know that
kind of
like
confusing.
me as somebody who's read the entire run, watching especially like this episode in particular, when it comes to Guardians of the Globe, like Shrinking Ray and what's the other guy? Black Samson, is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just every time they pop up, I'm like, I don't even remember you from the comics. So maybe that says something to their characters in general.
I think part of it's intentional. They're supposed to seem like dwarfs,
Yeah,
and the Viltrumites and the people who are more so like the stars of the plot are supposed to seem like giants in this small world, and their stuff is kind of background, because that's how grand on a scale Omni-Man and Mark are, is that even someone like the Avengers is like a B plot in this world.
See,
Like
I
there's
think
bigger things.
sorry. I think having a ton of superheroes is like a good and bad thing. Like we get this huge like diverse world, and that's like awesome to see like all these really cool characters. But then like the bad thing is like you don't want to get invested into any of them, because then you have like the end of this episode where who are the two that died?
Are they dead or just critically injured?
I believe they're just critically injured.
Oh,
No, I don't think anyone died.
are you sure? They look like they were pretty dead.
I believe they're
Invincible
pretty
does
messed
that.
up, but
I was about to say,
I swear to God, I thought they were like full on dead, and I was like,
That-
all right, wow, way to drive home the point that like no one is safe. Now I don't feel like I want to get invested in any of these characters because they're all gonna die.
yeah, it's also
Besides-
just something that happens when you're watching Superhero Trope, the series, which is what we're doing. People
Yeah.
die, they come back. It's just one of those things.
but I also think this
No,
point,
he
like where
killed.
comic books
It
are,
says he killed Black Samson and Monster Girl.
are they? Oh, they're dead. Okay. Like in the comics, they're still like not like in the comics. I believe they are still alive, at least for the point I'm at.
I think Monster Girl didn't die in the comic. Someone else did, but he.
It was like bulletproof. It was a different
Yeah,
I
but
don't
character.
know if
he's
I'm allowed to
hasn't
say
been
anything.
Yeah, that's why I'm like,
Yeah.
Burden of knowledge, my friend. The
No,
burden
it
of
looks
knowledge.
like from what I'm reading is that they're dead. Like
I
Battle Beast
guess we'll
killed
find out
them,
next week.
well,
and then he
They're
basically
dead.
was like,
Find
he's like,
out
you
next
guys
week.
aren't.
yeah, we'll find out next
Good
week.
money. They're not dead.
I don't know. I thought it was interesting that Battle Beast was. Oh, I can't remember what he said, but basically he was like, "You guys aren't worth my time" or something. Like he killed them so easily. He's like, I'm leaving. Like Earth's not
His-
even worth it.
His
I'm
end
also-
goal is to find the best of the fights, and they were
Right.
not worthy of Battle Beast.
But Omni-Man was okay. Also, Omni-Man just floating in the sky. Like I just imagine him in a lawn chair sipping tea as his son's getting his ass kicked, and it's just like, not my problem.
I think
Like-
he saw that as a lesson. I think he every swing of the Battle Beast mace he saw was driving his point home that he made earlier in the episode.
Yeah, he was like, I
Was-
wish that was me. Ever since he punched Mark in the first episode, I'm like, I want to beat this man.
Wait, so was Omni-Man the anonymous call to Cecil that got the Guardians to show up?
That's what
Like
I
that that was my assumption.
Probably.
Like, but like
I definitely
okay.
think so.
Yeah. I don't know. Who knows? Not me.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out.
A couple of random things I wanted to bring up.
Go for it.
I like that they carried on the comic tradition of people complaining how comfortable it is when Mark carries them while he's flying around. I I just- I love seeing the little one-off inside jokes making their way in. So he's carrying Titan, and Titan looks miserable, his arms folded, and he's like carrying him. And then later he has the classic under the arm carry, because that's usually how he carries people.
Yeah.
And then also, especially on the second watch through, the machine head auto tune voice made me want to claw my ears out. And I almost wanted to like skip the scene the second time through, because I felt like I was
Really?
watching like a YouTube video remix.
I
of the
loved
scene.
it so
during-
much.
I loved the voice.
Same. I love
I
it too.
hated it. I hated it so much. Also, he enjoyed that, putting that chip in his head a little too much. He got a little too
I-
much out of that.
It made his character like it made me just laugh at him. Like he was not intimidating in the slightest, and I feel like because his voice was so funny that,
Well, that's like one of the best parts about being a comic fan and going into the series is like some characters you don't expect their voices to sound like what they're sounding like Mark and Adam Eve and Omni-Man and Dave. They're all perfect voicing, and then I had some issues with Cecil's voice. He didn't sound as gruff as like I think he would sound from the comics. But Machine Head having an auto-tune voice was my favorite thing ever.
I like.
I'm glad you
I
liked
love
it.
it,
At least.
especially because like this whole interpretation of Machine Head, like, oh, he's always like obviously a Black Mask ripoff, but like you can see the influence of like Ewan McGregor's like very flamboyant, a little more like fun Black Mask from Birds of Prey last year in this Machine Head. And I was like, I like that. Like
Yeah.
he's having a good time while he's here. He's not just like, this is beneath me. Like he's having fun, like, oh, that's unexpected. Like, I like it.
I feel the same way.
Shout out to Battle Beast. I love Battle Beast so much.
So good.
I'm also curious, like, maybe this is something explained in spoilers, but like, if he's like such a proud warrior, how did he end up doing security for like a drug lord or like for like a crime lord in one city? Like, that's interesting.
Battle Beast.
I don't think it was security. I think it was just he
Yeah.
hired.
Well, he's like one of like the top elite guard, whatever, right? Like one of the super guards for Machine Head.
He
Or
was
he
acting as a
volunteered.
mercenary in that situation, is my
Yeah,
understanding.
Okay.
Yeah,
He was hired specifically for that encounter.
Yeah,
and
they
he's-
were-
Oh, okay.
yeah,
He's
they were-
game to fight.
Yeah, he's on his
yeah.
quest to find the toughest.
It's like hiring
baddie, like-
Taskmaster. It's just somebody
Yeah.
that wants to
Mhm.
Yeah.
fight.
Got it. It's just like, it seems like he just seemed like a weird character just to be like, to have on retainer.
No, yeah, he's not on the payroll. He was.
I hope he comes back. When he licked the blood off of his face.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know why that
It was
part
a-
just like
a blissful
killed
moment
me.
for him.
he was way too happy to be licking blood off of his face.
Yeah, he stole that scene. I was really
Yeah.
satisfied with his
Oh,
introduction.
his little mace and how he was flipping it when he stuck it on his back. I was like, man, I like this guy.
It worked.
It did. It really worked. Yeah, and then I don't know that ending, that with Titan, and he's now in charge.
And
I
that,
liked it.
that like make way for the king comes on again. Like,
Yes.
ooh, yes.
And that's why I was like, I knew. I think early on in my notes, I said it in quotes. I was like, make way for the king, and I was like, Titan has. I was like, he's more than like what they have set him up to be, especially with like that opening scene where he's like in the warehouse
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
he's like people, and the guy like shot, like bullets were ricocheting and killing people, and he like when he picked up the gun and threw it at someone's head, it really reminded me of that scene in Iron Man 1 when Tony's in the cave and he has like that suit and he's just like indestructible. And I just, that's how I felt with Titan in that opening scene. I was like, this guy, like, he's not good. Like he
Well, I
he
also
is,
like,
but isn't.
yeah, I also liked that, like, very much like his character, like he's got that gruff exterior, but every one of his scenes in the first half of the episode goes to show like there's a heart beneath that, because
Yeah.
like he lets the kid go even after he shotguns him in the face. He like lets the kid go, and then he like immediately goes outside, and it's like, here's like enough to keep yourselves up while you're looking for a new place to live to all those people.
Yeah.
And then the one that really got me was like when he's threatening the guy and holding him over the ledge, and he like sees the family and he's like, damn man, and
Oh
like lets
yeah.
him go. And
So
that
you
the
got 2 more
contrast with that,
days.
the contrast of that is fantastic because of the next scene with Omni-Man. Like, and Omni-Man is brutal enough that he just will drop him. Like,
Yeah.
sure, go, goodbye.
He's like, I'll maybe catch him.
And he'll give it more than a few seconds too.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
was like, I honestly wasn't sure if he was gonna go catch him. But
We'll
yeah,
never know.
I think Titan, in his new position of power, I feel like he's gonna use that to try and do good. Obviously, like how he does that probably won't be the best. Like the ends don't justify the means, but or they will.
We know he can afford more paint now, so that was a good line. Paint's
That's-
expensive.
Prices are outrageous.
Yeah, paint costs money, and you have a long ass name. I like that. It was funny.
Paint is expensive. It's very expensive.
Can't just be spending money willy nilly.
Is it time
Okay.
for trivia tidbits?
Well, we gotta talk about the final stinger, right?
What was it? Oh yeah.
The blood, like Donald, his name Donald. He like takes the blood back to the secret lab, and they're like, we can't figure out any way to kill it.
Because they're trying
Like-
to kill the Viltrumites.
Yep.
that right?
Omni-Man.
Yeah. Omni-Man and now Mark. Like, why? Which I also saw. I think I like made a note from an earlier episode where Omni-Man was like, "Oh, Viltrumites, we've tried to go out into the universe and end wars and bring peace." It's like, nah, you guys are colonizers. Like, and maybe the Cecil, like, they know this and they have to find a way to stop them from literally controlling the galaxy.
Well, Cecil also knows at this point, like he's like 90% sure that Omni-Man wiped out all the Guardians of the Globe. So they
Yeah.
just need a backup plan.
He's a
And,
threat.
like, he's a threat, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that was an interesting little end thing. I'm relying so heavily on comic book knowledge that wasn't something they ever did in the comics of them like investigating Viltrumite cells. So I'm very much like,
That's-
I wonder where they're gonna go with that, or that was, I don't know if that's a thread they'll pick up, or if it's just to let us know like they're trying to come up with some countermeasures.
They seem to
But
kind of be
interesting.
focusing a lot on the blood. Like, it, for me, not having like comic book knowledge, I felt like that has a really big part in this story. But, and that's why I was like, I didn't know if like Robot was actually working for Cecil. Like, are they kind of like trying to work together on like the whole blood thing, or if it's separate? And I don't know. Everybody has their own agenda.
Oh, there's lots of
Especially Robot.
agendas. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
especially
trust Robot, but I
Robot
like
Nolan.
him.
What have we ever had a series before when Zachary Quinto is not a good, wholesome man and is actually up to no good? I can't think of Heroes, American Horror Story, etc.
No, he's always pure of heart.
Shout out to Siler.
Spot.
Shout out to literally just every voice actor in this
Oh
show.
yeah,
God,
Con-
it's
continue to be incredible.
It's so good.
I wish Mark Hamill had like a bigger role, because him is like the guy who makes the suits. I was like, oh, it was just stole
It's
it.
also
Maybe
the-
it's because he stole
It's
the
also
scene, and they're like,
it's also the perfect role for Mark Hamill, though.
true. Yeah, so great. Also, like Steven Yeun. Yeun?
Yes.
Why can't I? Yeah, okay. He's been doing such a good job as Mark. Like every episode I'm blown away with everybody, but really Mark.
He's only going to get
Yeah.
better too.
And like this episode is a good, like, better show of like the range from like mild mannered high school kid to like arrogant, like I'm hot shit superhero to
Yeah.
oh shit, I'm literally getting my ass beaten in.
Which can they just have one episode where he doesn't get his ass beat? I love him so much.
No, you
No.
can't. You actually
I
can't.
just want one episode where
Get very used to it.
where someone just holds him and tells him it's gonna be okay.
Hey, he gives it his all at least.
He really does.
We saw glimpses of the incredible fighter that he is sure to become.
Oh,
I'm
Yeah, that
wondering if
moment
that-
where he like snaps and like
Yeah.
Yes.
suddenly he goes
Yeah.
like up like 3 tiers of superhero and like actually stands a fight against everyone except Battle Beast. That was great.
very briefly
Yeah.
went Super Saiyan, essentially.
Well, he did that.
Well,
Was
you-
it episode 3 that he did that?
It was the second one.
Second
Against
episode?
the Flaxons.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're
But,
getting
like-
little teases of that.
I also like the rage that you saw him then is very, very similar to Omni-Man's rage in the first episode. Like you can see the shadow of like that in him, like right there. And it's like, wow. Like it's genetic.
What?
Right.
Mark with anger issues? What?
I mean, we see who his dad is. I feel like he has a lot of pressure to be great, and I don't know. I think even though it's like he's a superhero, like his dad's a superhero, I think that pressure from a parent to like be your best, like everybody can relate to that. Which is also why like I think the show does such a good job. A lot of their what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, just a lot of the issues that they work with are family rooted, and that's something people can relate to.
My dad got very mad at me the last time I wouldn't drop a guy off a roof. He had to do it for me. It was very awkward. I related.
All right, maybe not that.
I dropped them. I don't know.
Oh wow.
It was easy.
Kind of dark.
I'm adamant to say my mom punched me in the face once because that goes off the wrong.
Seeing a lot of my
Message.
family in this show. Yeah.
She did.
All right.
She was trying to get me to
Now is it time for trivia tidbits?
Yes.
I think so.
Excellent. Episode 5, trivia tidbits.
You can see the joy in James' face. just
Everyone's-
light up when he gets to do trivia
Especially
tidbits.
Christian's favorite segment. Everyone's favorite segment. So our very first tidbit is probably easily there's some good ones. Last ones weren't so good. These ones are good.
Would you
I
call
think.
this a greatest bits section?
Yes. Trivia tidbits, greatest bits. First off, one of the villains earlier on, Roarface was their name, is unique to the television series. She was named by Corey Walker after the script referenced the roaring face of an unnamed supervillain. Corey's backstory for her: the metal collar around her neck prevents her from becoming all werewolf, so only her head is affected by the werewolf curse.
That's a lot of like backstory for a character
Yeah, it
who
hurts.
like basically was only like thing was defeated off screen.
Just got punched. That was it. And it
When
was just,
was this?
their face is hairy. Bye. It was very
It-
early on.
It was one
Um,
of the times where they're cutting between Mark being late. Like it's one of the things he just like one-off handled.
Yeah, he fought Kill Cannon, and then
It-
he fought Kill Cannon again, and then he fought Roarface, who is this new.
Was that when he
new
kept getting
villain.
hit over the head and was texting Amber at the same time?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
great.
That was such a
Oh.
good scene.
We didn't talk about that. Wanted to mention, I think it was the first time I've ever seen those little texting scenes and stuff
Yeah.
have become so much more popular. I think it's the only time I've seen one have autocorrect
Yes.
and have someone
I also-
actively making mistakes and correcting their message with the asterisk. I was like, that's so realistic. Holy crap.
I also made a note
Oh,
of
yeah.
that where I was like,
That's a
that
great detail.
shows,
Yeah.
where it shows like the pressures that Mark has trying to balance both of these like parts of his life. And yeah, he's gonna have
Yeah.
spelling mistakes.
You know what? I've never done this before, but I'm going to include spelling errors as an honorary trivia tidbit
Oh boy.
because it's the first time I've ever seen one in something, and that's the trivia. When was the first time James has ever seen texting errors in a text thing on a media program? All right, moving on. Next up, Principal Winslow looks a lot like Reginald Vell Johnson, which is one, who the school is actually named after, and two, the man himself voices that very same character. How crazy. How crazy. Next up is Jason's favorite trivia tidbit. and that is that the Burger Mart slogan is "Start your day with a hot BM."
Oh,
You know?
gross.
Sometimes you just got to start the morning right.
Look, I will never go to, what is it called? Burger Mart?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because that, when he was like, there's a rat in the mayonnaise again.
Mm.
I hate mayonnaise. This just reaffirmed
Same.
that I will not,
Oh,
never
the
eat
mayonnaise was the deal breaker, not the rat.
Yeah. Exactly. Look, I already expect fast food to have rats, but mayonnaise is where I draw the line.
You gotta draw it somewhere. I
I-
respect that you have
I-
that so clearly
I have
defined for yourself.
Two words muted on Twitter: mayo and mayonnaise. That's not a joke. That's for real.
Going back to the sequence whenever Mark is fighting and making up excuses for why he's late, the line that I already forgot his name. We just said it. The guy he fights all the time. He fought him in the first episode.
Kill
Kill
cannon.
cannon.
The line that Kill Cannon has where he says something along the lines of, "You won't beat me this time, Invincible." It's just so comic booky.
Yeah.
And it just made me think of like Shocker from Spider-Man, where it's just like, you're always fighting me on like Tuesday afternoon. Like we have a schedule. Just made me laugh so
Which-
much.
Is actually a great segue to another trivia tidbit, believe it or not.
I'm
And
good
that's
at
that
this.
in the comics, Kill Cannon is actually Adam Eve's arch nemesis, or rather, he thinks he is.
Okay.
Love a good segue.
And then, speaking of smooth segues, finally, the Lizard League are a recurring villain from the comics. They appeared in this episode in the hologram of the Guardians reviewing their fight. They had just come fresh from a fight against the Lizard League, and they are inspired by Cobra in G.I. Joe.
That makes
Oh.
sense.
I must have missed that.
But I don't think Cobra. But what does Cobra not have? A snake raider. That's Cobra's problem.
There's the difference.
They just have snake eyes.
I want a snakerator.
And those were your episode 5 trivia tidbits. Thank you very much.
I love that.
Good
Thank
job.
you.
Woo! Good job, James.
I really do love a good trivia section. So I appreciate
Well, there will be at least 3 more. Maybe
Christian
at the end, I
ever
need
puts
the
out the
greatest
episodes.
tidbits. Yeah, if Christian ever posted these.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault. I'm gonna cut out this berating that I'm receiving.
Christian, I haven't made fun of you or been mean to you in so long.
Wow, Christian's such a great editor. It's amazing that this part is gonna stay in.
Well, it's not even release the Humongous cut. It's just release episode 2. Like, please.
Ah.
And he's out.
Christian, we're like the Brawler twins. Each of us thinks that we're the original.
Except I'm older than you.
No.
Well, actually,
what you-
they're
that's
called
what
the
you
Mauler
think.
twins, not the Brawler twins. That's
Did I
why
say
the
Brawler?
lines on their
Yeah, you
suit
did
kind
say-
of makes an M.
Oh dang! I didn't actually
Sorry.
notice.
I've been
that. I
trying
didn't
to
actually
reduce
notice
the
that.
amount of times that I will actually people, so
No,
I had to at least once.
that was a slip of the tongue, but thank you for correcting.
All
That
right.
wasn't me being facetious.
I do like that they showed like the wake up scene and like the memory transfer, so it actually makes sense why one would like, but why they both think they're the original, as opposed to that just being a bit.
Yeah.
I love them so much.
They're great.
Was that in the comic? I can't remember.
We never saw the full. That was one of
Yeah,
the trivia
that's-
tidbits from last episode, which people would know if it had been posted. Which doesn't make sense because it doesn't make sense. It'll probably be posted before this. You can cut this out. But one of the trivia tidbits from the unreleased Episode 2.
It'll be released by the time
Issue-
this episode is out. I'm gonna upload both of them.
Release the Invinciboy cut.
Simultaneously, so all my complaints just make no sense.
I'll upload
One-
episode 3, and then a week later I'll put up 2.
But as I've long-windedly been trying to say, one of the trivia tidbits was that we in the comics never saw the entire cloning process. So some speculation of whether or not they're actually made of meat or whether the meat was just fueling the cell growth. We may never know the answer.
Yeah, we don't know.
we don't know.
That was
Where
new.
would they
It
have gotten the meat from?
was from Burger Mart.
Yeah, they just got it from Burger Mart.
You
Yeah,
didn't
they just dumped a hot BM right in the
Ew.
cells.
Ew.
I didn't like that I said that. I'm sorry.
I never want to hear that phrase
Yeah, the
ever. It
when he
kind of
put
makes.
Why
When
do
he
you
put
think
that-
he quit?
when he
It
put the
makes me wanna
hamburger
vomit.
patties in the cloning thing, it had a Burger Mart logo on it.
Yeah.
Oh,
They were
wait,
just
really?
frozen. Yeah, they're
I
frozen.
missed this whole part.
Yeah, it was in episode
4.
4.
It was 4. Well, my eyes have been trained as an avid Invincible Comics fan to recognize the logos that are only from that series. So I recognize the Burger Mart logo. I think you easily get a pass on that. Easily.
James can see a hot BM a mile away.
I know a hot BM when I see one. This is going too long.
I use the excuse that I watch it
like
after
this.
I watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and like that's all that occupies my brain. So it's really hard to focus on this show.
Thank God we don't have a show where Kaitlyn talks about MCU properties.
Here's an
Don't
interesting
we?
Here's an interesting question. What had more blood on it? The logo from Invincible or Cap's shield?
Oof.
Definite. Right now the shield.
It's currently the shield.
Oh, I saved that. I don't know my phone.
But
is.
Of course you did.
I saved that shot. I have never like.
Are
I
we
jumped
outroing?
up-
What is happening right now?
This can be like.
Done? Are we outroing? What is this?
I'm just trying to make Christian's life harder
Oh,
so that he
okay.
has to edit more.
Yeah, you'll need
Or
to
he can
paste.
leave-
You'll need to paste this into a coherent end. I
Or
think.
don't.
I'll just
Or
leave
just
this
don't.
in. At
This is
point.
Big Sweert. This
Leave
is
it, yeah, it
on
doesn't
brand
matter.
for
All right,
at
yeah.
least me.
It's true.
5-star runtime. Let's go.
How long have we been going? This doesn't have a
I don't
timer.
even know what I
Like,
was talking about.
I've
the other
lost
one.
all sense of time. I have no
It's
idea.
been like an hour and a half.
all right. Well,
Is it actually? Oh my god.
that has been episode 3 of Invinciboys featuring special guest Kaitlyn. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Tune in next week when we have not so special guest Steven, the bane
That's
of
not
my
true.
existence.
Steven's special to me. I love him.
I forgot.
Well, it's okay. This outro might be out of my league, except I've got money.
What?
I don't know.
On that
trying to
note,
search-
questions, comments, concerns, follow us at Big Sweert on Twitter.
No, don't send us
Mostly
your
concerns. Mostly concerns at this
No.
point.
No one needs to know.
If
Send
you have,
me any tweets and I'll just read them. Doesn't have to be related to the. I'll just make a segment where I read things. I don't care. Just do it.
What?
if you
I
have
don't know.
if you have concerns, tweet at why not Zoidberg. The O's are zeros. Have a good day.
We'll
Bye.
call James's viewer mail segment the mid bits.
Cutting that out.